We're heading back to 1980, folks, for this small little horror film, so let's fade to black. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. And since we are leading up this weekend, me and Dale _ from the Bat and Spider podcast are going to be at Carolina Fear Fest this weekend. I figured I'd lead up to this weekend with a couple of horror films, and today we're going to talk about a small horror film from 1980. But before we get into it, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Check me out on Discord. It's free. If you don't have an account, just set one up. Look for my name, and I'll add you to my Discord, and we can chat about movies there as well. Now, today we're going to talk about Fade to Black. This movie came out October 14th of 1980. Had a budget of about $1.8 million from what I've been able to find, and upon release, made $15 million worldwide. It wasn't a huge hit, especially in America, but worldwide it did make a few bucks. Now, this movie was written and directed by Vernon Zimmerman. This is actually the only movie he ever wrote or directed, and this was a passion project for him. As somebody very familiar with the horror genre, and somebody who executive produced one of my favorite horror movies of all time, Halloween, Erwin Obolans was the executive producer on this film. He was executive producer on Halloween 1, 2, and 3, a movie called Prison from the 80s, Rennie Harlan, little haunted prison movie, Tank, which I love that film, and Hell Night with Linda Blair, amongst many others. And in this film, we got Dennis Christopher as Eric Binford. Eric Christopher played Eddie on the TV miniseries of It, directed by the great Tommy Lee Wallace. Tom Thompson plays Dr. Jerry. He's kind of like this new age psychiatrist that's going to be working with the local police department, which they're totally against. And we get early roles from Peter Horton, who would go on to be in Children of the Corn, and Mickey Rourke. This was his second film that he's ever done in his career, and he looks very young here when you see him. And Gwen Guilford is in this film as Officer Ann. I mention her because she is Chris Pine's mom. Yes, Chris Pine from the new Star Trek movies, amongst many other films. Yes, that's his mom in this film, so I thought that was pretty cool. And Tom Thomerson was in Near Dark, which is awesome if you've never seen that film, and Air America, amongst many other films. He's been a character actor, been working for decades. And this film is about Eric Binford. Eric Binford is a loner. He's obsessed with film. He lives with his aunt. His mom supposedly left him when he was really little and left him with her sister, was kind enough to take him in, and she reminds Eric of that. She's not a very pleasant person. But Eric doesn't have a very pleasant personality either. He's obsessed with film. When we first meet him in the movie, you can tell the line between reality and fantasy land with Eric is very thin, and it won't take much to push him over into insanity. Even at the beginning of the film, this is the first time I've ever seen this film, and I gotta credit Dale _ from the Bat and Spider podcast. I believe they spoke about this on one of their episodes. He let me borrow his Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray, which they did a great job with the transfer and the sound. I didn't get to watch any of the special features, but it's a good looking disc. Shout out to Vinegar Syndrome on that one. And Eric works for this film advertisement company. They run prints and make prints for different distributors and stuff, and Eric works for this guy who's not very pleasant to him, but he's not very pleasant to anybody. And that's his job. And at night he goes home and watches movies, or he goes to the movies. He even tells this girl that he meets that looks like Marilyn Monroe, whom he's obsessed with, because he's a big poster on his ceiling, which we'll talk about in a minute, and pictures on his wall. And he's pictures of all these different movies. And we even get references in this movie from Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Mummy. We see Night of the Living Dead. We see a poster for Halloween, Tourist Trap in his boss's office. Several other films. Tons of films they place in here or have reference to. And Eric, he talks in movie trivia pretty much. And anybody who says anything negative about that, he gets very upset with right from the get-go. Obviously, this is a guy who doesn't have any friends. He's looked down upon by his peers at work. Doesn't have a social life per se. He's pretty much a loner, and his aunt is not very nice to him. As a matter of fact, she's pretty creepy towards him. We'll talk about that in a second. And we get to see Eric's day-to-day right away, and he meets this girl called Marilyn. She's from Australia, blonde hair, kind of looks like young Marilyn Monroe. Strikes up a conversation. They actually kind of hit it off, and they set up to meet that night at a movie theater at 8 o'clock to see a film. Marilyn, no fault of her, it was an honest mistake, was at dinner with actually Peter Horton's character. He's only in it for a few minutes, but this is one of the scenes he's in. And she realizes she was late. Eric's already there, all dressed up, waiting for her. Oh, before that, Eric's at home getting all dressed up, and his aunt comes in her wheelchair. And he asks if he can borrow some money with the usual interest payment. And she gives him this weird smile, like very creepy smile. And says, well, I want you to come home right after the movie because I really could use one of our special massages. And it almost implies that there was a really depraved sexual relationship going on between him and his aunt, forced on him by his aunt. Just that little nugget gave me that, and we also stand the fact why Eric's so fucked up. But yeah, I get that little sense. They don't show anything. It goes no further than that. There's no. She doesn't even say anything again about it. But it's just that one little nugget, and I'm like, ugh, it's creepy as hell. Well, after Marilyn stands him up accidentally, because she does try to make up for it and get there, but Eric's long gone by then. This is where Eric has his breaking point. He goes home. He has a projector at home. He puts a movie on. His aunt comes in and starts yelling at him. She's not a very pleasant person. And Eric gets so wound up and so, like, just going off the deep end, and he pushes her in her wheelchair down the stairs outside, which he gets off with because everybody thought it was an accident where she just mistakenly went out that door and went down the steps by accident. So Eric ends up burying his aunt or getting her ashes and getting an inheritance. He ends up quitting his job soon after this because his boss is giving him total shit, along with Mickey Rourke's character, whom he ends up killing. He dresses up like a Western character and shoots him in this alley and kills him. And then he kills this movie producer that he gives this idea to for a script that he wrote. And he sees this producer on TV saying that he came up with this idea. And he walks into this salon with a Tommy gun. Where the hell he got this Tommy gun? I don't know. And a fully operational Tommy gun in LA. But he gets one and he shoots this dude like 20 times and kills him. There's a little bizarre shit like that. And even there's a scene where Marilyn's at home. Now, we've established that Eric had followed her to her work and he was watching her from outside, but they never established that he followed her home or how he knew where the hell she lived. But there's seen, obligatory nudity because she's in the shower naked and they show her breasts. And Eric is dressed like Dracula. He was just coming from a screening of Night of the Living Dead, or maybe this happened before. Maybe I'm getting my timeline screwed up, but it doesn't really matter. He pulls back the curtain and she screams, obviously. This stranger dressed like Dracula is in her bathroom while she's naked getting a shower. And he goes, "Oh, I wanted was your autograph." And he drops his pen in the shower and he takes off. And I'm like, that is a bizarre freaking scene. I mean, it really doesn't make much sense. I mean, it's kind of funny in an awkward way, but it's there. I don't know. It's kind of just comes out of nowhere. And anyway, just go through the rest of the plot. Eric keeps spiraling out of control. He kills more people, kills his boss. Well, he doesn't really kill him. He scares him to death. He dresses up like the mummy, goes into the work at night and scares the shit out of him because he already has a bad heart and he has a heart attack and dies. Then at the end, we have the showdown with the police. He's on top of Man's Chinese Theater with Marilyn, and he ends up getting killed. And that is the end of Fade to Black. Now, what I did like about this film, I like the premise. I like the story, actually. I don't think it's executed as well as it could be, honestly. And I don't think, and this is kind of getting to the negatives, although I did appreciate this film for what they were going for, I don't think they were successful enough in pulling it off. But there were some cool scenes. I like when Eric's dressed up like Dracula. I like when he's dressed up as the mummy. I thought those were cool callbacks to older films. Even when he's dressed up like the cowboy, I'm blanking on that character's name from the one movie. And he kills Mickey Rourke's character. I thought that was all cool and actually all really well done. There's some things like the Tommy gun. Where the hell did he get a fully operational Tommy gun? Not that it's impossible, but it's like out of the blue, all of a sudden he has it. And then how the hell do you know where Marilyn lived? They never established they knew where she lived. She never gave him her address. So I don't know when he had time to follow her to find in the course of the film. A little shit like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Eric, from the beginning of the film, you could tell right from the beginning that there's something off with this kid. Yes, he's movie obsessed, but I love movies. You love movies if you're here watching this video. But he's also a little off-putting. He's cold right from the beginning. He never gives off like a warm vibe about him. Now, him and Marilyn strike up a conversation, and it's actually the happiest she's really seen him during the film. Because from then, when she stands him up by accident, it's all downhill from there. I think there's some nice shots. I think Zimmerman handles some of the movie pretty well. Some of it not so well. Some of it looks really amateurish. I noticed this is his first film. Some of it looks pretty good, and there's some cool sequences. But at the end of the day, this isn't a great film. It's not a bad film either. It's not a piece of shit. It's kind of middle of the road for me. I'm glad I watched it, for sure, and it's a movie I'm going to remember. It's just not... I think the idea is better than the execution here. And actually, this is a movie that I would be all for if they remade. I think there's a really awesome idea in there that you could really make into something special. And I don't think Dennis Christopher pulls off some of the emotions he's supposed to pull off. Now, I don't know if that was in the script the way he does it, or that was his choice, or the director was egging him on. I just find his performance uneven. There's scenes where he's really good, and there's other scenes where I don't know, it just seems off to me. And I know it was a low-budget movie, and it was a hell of a shoot from what I understand, but the whole movie did not work for me. But I do appreciate it. I do respect it for what they were trying to do. You got to give them props for that. Now, the clips of Dracula in the film, Universal would not give them permission to use clips from their original Dracula film from the 30s. So they used clips from the Dracula movie from 1958 because those were ones they could use. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead's in public domain, so they were able to show that with no problem. Where they got into trouble with was the clips of Hopalong Cassidy. They supposedly did not have permission. They got sued for $15 million. I don't know what happened with that lawsuit, but I read about that the company that owned those rights sued them for $15 million. I don't know if they had to pay or if they got off. I have no idea. But other than that, this is a very interesting film. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I had issues with it, like I said. I think there's some logic gaps. I think there's a really great idea in here that could be explored in a remake. And any movie that deals with movie obsession, I'm there for because I love movies. But I don't know what the director was trying to say. The other problem I have with it, it's almost like the director, I don't know if this was his intention, and I don't think Yerwin Yablans would, I mean, he made plenty of horror films, so I don't know if he would agree with this, and I don't know if this was the intention, but what was kind of a little bit off-putting to me, and maybe I was reading it wrong, was that it was almost like the writer and director was saying that if you're too obsessed with movies, you're going to end up killing people. Or maybe all this violent cinema is not good for somebody. Which I always found an argument is it could be total horseshit, whether it's video games or movies or music. I never bought any of that shit. If you're an evil piece of shit, you're going to do evil piece of shit stuff. Yes, there's some people that they're obsessed with things a little too much, and maybe their reality, fantasy land, knob gets a little stuck. But I never bought that argument. I don't know if that was the director's intention, but I got some vibes from maybe that's what he's pointing at. Like, if you're too obsessed with these violent movies, you're going to end up being like Eric in this film. And I never bought that. I don't know if that was the director's. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. Who knows? But at the end of the day, this was an interesting watch for me. I would give it a 5 out of 10. It's a very interesting film with some really interesting ideas. I think most of the cast is pretty good, although I got to mention Dr. Jerry. His character, he's supposed to be the psychiatrist to help these troubled people. He's in the basement of the police station doing bumps of coke, and he's in bed with Officer Ann before you know it, and he's drinking beer on the job. I'm like, who the fuck made this choice in this movie? I'm like, was that the actor's choice or was that the director? It was just an odd choice. He's doing bumps in the basement. He's there to try to help people. It's like, what the hell is going on? That was another bizarre thing. But yeah, 5 out of 10 for Fade to Black. If you've ever seen this film, leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. I'll be back later in the week before Carolina Fear Fest with another horror review. I think I'm going to do The Burning, but I'm not sure yet. But until then, bye.